right. So,
Hello,
hello. I'm Aaron Botello,
Ryan Fitzgerald.
and today we're here to talk about conflict resolution.
Yeah, using healthier maybe communication patterns than maybe used currently in order to solve problems.
All right. And this is something that comes up a lot. Where do we find conflict occurring with people?
Where don't we? Might be the easier
Yes,
question. Yeah.
exactly.
Conflict occurs everywhere all the time, right? And we're not talking about even these like huge conflicts, right? They can be small little things like, my coffee was made incorrectly according to my order at, the the convenience store. It could be we meet at a stop sign. We're not sure who's right supposed to be
Goes
going
first.
first or not, or we don't care sometimes.
Yes.
Up to problems in the home around chores and tasks, around emotional needs not being met, up to these kind of like the internet and the social political arguments that just are chronic nowadays.
The nation's going to war against each other.
Yeah,
They're
up
out
to
there.
that. Yeah, yeah.
People get into conflict all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's inevitable,
Yes.
but there are healthy ways to resolve these conflicts, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
And I'm not alone in this, yeah. Yeah, and I think a healthy, in most cases, a healthy resolution to a problem or a conflict is where both parties, right, are okay, right,
Right.
with what occurred and what it changes or how the
But
problem
not
is
necessarily
resolved.
thrilled, right?
No, no, well, no, because the problem wouldn't be there if they were both thrilled. Because
Exactly.
yeah, they would agree,
Both would do
right?
the same
Yeah,
thing, right?
yeah, yeah. So,
But that's not usually what happens, right? Oftentimes we have unhealthy resolutions and
yeah, well, I think so, and I do see that, especially
Yeah.
in romantic relationships and things. Yeah, where and it's usually because one party is unhappy, like one party won, one party lost, right? Or
Right.
one person won, one, and so
Yeah.
the loser's not happy, right?
Yeah,
And there's some
yeah.
problems there,
Yeah, and,
additional problems
maybe
that arise.
you can deal with an L every once in a while, but if it becomes a recurring
A pattern, yeah,
where you're always just sucking it up and the other person's winning,
Yeah.
then this can
That in and of
get
itself
ugly.
becomes a big problem, a
Yeah.
very big problem. Yeah.
So let's talk about in any sort of conflict. There's generally going to be two types of people. One person's going to be the more aggressive.
Yeah, we have like a communication spectrum.
Sure.
One side's aggression, right? And we move across, and at the other side's passivity or passiveness. So the aggressive approach is more typical for males, but not only males, right? And I'd say it's becoming more typical in our society, at least around like these large issues, in social political issues. Aggression is I'm trying to win, almost by any means necessary.
Sure.
Right?
And
Yeah.
this is, I mean, I think this is natural to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, I think people spend a lot of their time trying to get what they want, right?
Yeah.
And that's leads to sort of, and I don't mean aggression like yelling or screaming.
Yeah.
I mean it's like that I'm not taking your perspective. I'm just trying to win, right? And
Right.
I'm going to use different strategies, but I'm going to
I don't really
push.
care what you have to say. Like, give me some fuel. Say the wrong thing, and I'll use that as part of my strategy to win.
Yeah, yeah, you see a lot of kind of different approaches there, right? And it can be even aggressive, like yelling or trying intimidation or manipulation. It can't even go that
Yeah.
far as well. It's rigid, it's non-compromising, right? And so if the person doesn't hate you for it, right, you may win and you may get your way, right, and the problem's resolved that way. But you're causing resentment in the other person there, right? Which is
Okay.
what is going to happen in unhealthy
Sure.
conflict
So
resolution.
you might get your way this time. You
Yeah.
might get it next time,
Yeah.
but you're really poisoning the relationship and
Yes, very
in a
much
certain
so.
way.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of unlikable, right? It's disagreeableness. So, yeah,
Yeah, sure.
We're probably not a good long-term strategy of resolving problems with people, right?
Okay, and then but there are also people who are going to be on the passive side of the spectrum.
Yes, yes,
So
very much so. Yeah.
what's that like?
So passive people tend to go along with what the other person wants, but they're losing what they want in that interaction,
Right.
right? And so I'll go along with it because I'm agreeable, right? But it could be a lot of people see it as being nice, or and so
Don't want to rock the boat.
don't want to rock the boat, don't want the person to be upset with you. There's lots of
Right.
different reasons for it. And some of it's just a natural inclination or shyness or anxiety based, but that can be a problem as well.
Yeah, and a lot of times these people will mask. Well, I'm just being nice, but
Mhm. Yeah.
that's not always the case, right?
Well, I mean, it is a nice thing, right?
Yeah.
To give up your wants and needs for others, right?
Right.
Yes, but it can't be 100% of the time.
Yes.
Yeah, because those resentments are going to build, right? And what I find with people that are passive that I work with, and they lose in these sort of conflicts, right? Eventually, they get so frustrated with losing is they blow their top. And then they become aggressive, and that aggressive,
Snap.
like the yelling, yeah, that sort of thing. And then the issue with that is they're finally like standing up for themselves, but they're doing it in such an aggressive manner that people don't realize.
Seems to outstrip the response. You know, like you've been taking
Yeah.
you've been taking.
Yeah, you've been going along with this all. Like, what's the problem now?
Yeah, now we're talking about a shoelace on the floor, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you go nuclear about
Yeah.
this, minor thing. But in reality, it's just the straw that's broken the camel's back.
Yes, yeah, but people won't realize that, and they'll
Right.
think, oh, you're having a bad day, or I
Somebody
don't know
woke up
what's
on the
wrong
wrong
with
side of
it.
the bed,
Yeah, and so then you're not communicating in a way that's working for you, and either of the other one I would say you're communicating in a way that may be working for you, but I don't think it's a good long-term strategy in terms of relationships. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to keep many healthy relationships
You're
by
poisoning relationships.
yeah by dominating others, right?
Okay.
And with the passive one is that your wants and needs aren't ever being met, and then
You can't keep that up forever.
No, yeah, you can't. Yeah.
All right, so they're both really unhealthy ways of
Yeah, I
dealing
think
with
they
conflict.
eventually lead to breakdowns in relationships.
Resentments.
Yeah, resentments.
Right.
And these resentments pile up too. They're not. It's not one conflict, one resentment. Because we're having conflicts
Yeah.
chronically, and
Yeah.
you do this for 10 years, say with a romantic partner, and you got hundreds of resentments built up. Right. That can get very ugly very quickly.
And then we also start to get some distorted views of the other person, right?
Yeah. When conflicts aren't resolved well, or even part of the process of them not being is we tend to look at the other person as the problem, right? I'm right, you're wrong. Like you need to
Yes.
change, and then you get some of these distorted like language and things around this. Even like you never do anything for me, or
Here
you
goes the
always
slob again.
things like
Yeah.
labeling the person right
Yeah.
as a thing that right
Yeah.
is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do get some
Their
of that.
muddy feet. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one hits home for me. So I used to walk into my office with that all the time. So yeah, it can lead to breakdowns in relationships, and it will lead to breakdowns in relationships. Eventually. It's just how long, right? Is this going to go on? Yeah.
All right, so let's dig a little bit deeper
Yeah.
and maybe talk about where the roots of some of these issues lie.
Yeah. Mhm.
Why are these things happening?
Well, why do people have problems, right,
Yeah.
and conflicts? Yeah, and it's that we are all individuals. We're kind of these brains floating in this body in the world with different experiences, different predispositions that lead us to see the world differently from other people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's different perspectives on things, and it can be a simple one like some people are perfectly fine with leaving dirty dishes in the sink.
Yep.
And some people think that's something you should never do.
Right.
You should always wash them or rinse them and put them in the dishwasher, right?
Which is right.
Yeah, if you think that way, but
Right.
the other person thinks they're right too, right?
Yeah,
And that's where the problem is, right?
Exactly.
Is that we have different views on
And
something,
neither one is
whatever that
actually
thing
right
is.
or wrong, right?
Well, no, I mean, unless, there's some, I don't know, like physics thing, like 2 + 2 = dishes should be X. I don't know, right? But
Right.
they're just these things
But
we
we're
make
talking
up.
about, and then we're in the realm of values. We're in the realm of beliefs.
Yeah, they're made
at this
up.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people don't like to hear that, and I don't
Yeah.
want to get too much into, thinking around that. But most beliefs and values are just things that we believe.
Right.
Right,
My
but
mom,
they're not absolute
in my
truths.
house when we were raised, we did it this way.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know do it this way.
So therefore, it's
It's
correct.
got to be the right way.
Yes. Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's actually not. I mean,
No, I mean, lots of people live their lives lots of different ways and are
Different
perfectly
ways.
fine. Yeah.
live in a
yeah.
diverse and interesting world.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
people, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a tough one, right? Because it's hard to see other people's perspectives because we only have ours, right? And to
Right.
be able to kind of, lower that, right, bias and lower that emotionality around our beliefs and values to listen to others and understand their beliefs and values around
Right.
something that's difficult
See
thing
where
to
they're
do.
coming from.
Yeah.
All right. And so oftentimes these things get into a type of attack and resent pattern, right?
Yes, yeah, and this is that's the I'm right, you're wrong, I win, you lose type thing, right? And so the communication breakdown because you're blaming the other person, you're not resolving the problem, right? And so you get into these sort of attack defense, like you are a slob, you never clean up after yourself, right? So now I've attacked you, right? So your natural inclination is your defenses are gonna rise. You're going to sort of try to disagree with that, right?
Roll
Naturally,
yeah.
say that's not true, right? I do, and then I'm going to find something to attack you on, and then they get attacked, and then their defenses rise, and then this escalating pattern of attack defense, right, often occurs in problems when people aren't good at resolving them in a healthy pattern.
Yeah, and oftentimes language is replete with overgeneralizations, right?
Yeah, hyperbolic statements.
Yeah, like you've never done the dishes in your entire life.
Yeah. You never, once you say that, the person stopped listening because they're immediately going to think of even if it's one time 20 years ago they did that, they're going to say, you're wrong, I'm right now, right? And that's, you get caught up in that trap of now.
Here's the liar again.
Try to, say the other person's wrong. I'm right, you're wrong, one way or another. And you see even these argument patterns then, and then you end up talking about something over here, right? It has nothing to do with the problem anymore. It could have been other unresolved problems over the years, right? And they just
because you've been keeping a big log of
grievances or resentments, that you can now attack the person on. Yeah.
And so, just to be clear, the unhealthy way of doing it is to begin to problematize the other person. The other person is the problem. Right?
Yes, because that doesn't go anywhere. Because if I see you as the problem and you see me as the problem, how do we solve that? Like, I'm right, you're wrong, so you need to change. No, you need to change. Where does that go, right? And it doesn't go anywhere. So it can't be a solution that's going to work especially in long-term relationships with people, over time.
All right. So how do we break this pattern?
Yeah, that's the hard part. Yeah.
Yep.
So and so we talked about aggression. We talked about passivity here, right? And then in the middle somewhere is assertiveness, right? Where we can communicate with each other, where we're not letting the person always get everything they want, but we're also not trying to get everything we want, right? We're trying to communicate in a way that we can come up with a mutually agreeable solution to a problem.
And it sounds to me like when you say assertiveness, what you mean is really just being honest about where you're coming from.
Yes, it's sort of, it's being open and honest about what you think and feel about
because
something.
The passive person in some ways being deceptive, right? Okay, dear.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, things like that.
So really you're being honest, like, well, no, actually I did kind of want to go out to dinner tonight, or
you can say I'd really like to. We haven't been spending much time together. I think it would be nice. It would make me feel good. Yeah.
So you're gonna be honest.
Yeah.
And you want to be open about how you're feeling.
About you, yes. Yeah. The aggression is when I go after you, though, right? So that's the difference between assertiveness and aggression, right? Assertiveness is I'm going to talk about me and what my wants and needs are, what my perspectives and beliefs and values are, right? But I'm not going to go after you about how you're wrong about everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So part of this is going to be to externalize the problem, correct?
Well, that's the goal here, right? Is that I'm going to talk about what I think and feel and what my perspectives are, right? And I'm going to allow space for you to do that as well.
Okay.
Right? And so then now that we understand each other's perspective, we can kind of see where the problem lies. And the problem lies between us, right? You're not the problem, I'm not the problem. The problem is
the dishes.
The dishes, what we're going to do together about the dishes in the sink or not in the sink, and how is this going to work, right? So the problem's externalized now. So if it's not you and it's not me, now we can work together against the problem. And we can come up with some sort of compromise, right? Where you get a little of you want, I get a little bit of what I want, right? We're not both totally happy, but we are agreeing to something, right?
Yeah, and because we've talked about this before, compromise isn't always a 50-50 necessarily, right?
No, especially, when you say you're living with someone, right, and or a child or something, right, it's sort of, it could be 90-10, one, it could be 40-60, it could be 50-50, it depends, but you're not always looking for the exact middle ground, right? You're looking for something that can work. You can both agree to, right? And get on with it, right? Move on with your lives and not keep rehashing these same problems.
So come up with a solution and then work toward ways to start to implement the solution.
Yeah, which is easy. Agree to something, right? And then live with it.
Keep your agreement.
Yeah. And now it's not a problem anymore, right? Because it's a solution that's working better than it was before. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be better. Right?
Okay. So, like in your own practice, if someone were going to come in
Mhm.
and it's maybe a couple, and
Yeah.
they've had these uh, problems.
Unhealthy pattern. Every couple has problems,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
We all do, but they have unhealthy ways that they're managing problems or trying to resolve
Okay.
conflicts.
And so they're in your office.
Yeah.
How do you start this?
So, it depends where people are in terms of their understanding of these concepts and understanding of communication and how well they're communicating, right? But typically, when couples come to work with me, they're pretty deep into this, right?
Yeah.
That it's not working, and
Yeah.
their ability to communicate around problems isn't working at all. So I usually start very slow and then build up their capacity
Okay.
to get to this place, right?
Mhm.
And one thing is, people have heard this before, is the idea of I statements, right? And teach people what that really is, and having them practice making statements in that way.
Okay. Well, tell us what is an I statement
So,
exactly?
and that comes to where I'm going to tell you, right, what I think and feel, and I'm not going to talk to you at all about you at all,
Right.
right? And so it makes me kind of feel gross when I see dirty dishes in the sink. I just don't like the look of it. I'm used to it being clean. My whole life it's been that way, and that's why it kind of bothers me to see that,
Could
and that
it
bothers
attract
me.
pests and
Yeah,
rodents.
yeah, whatever everybody sort of thinking is,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not. I'm just communicating
That's
with
how you
you
feel.
about myself,
Right.
right? I'm not,
Right.
saying anything about you.
No.
And some people early on, we know what we're
Yeah.
going to say. I feel, people say this, I feel when you're a jerk that,
Yes.
and I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I feel when you leave all the dirty dishes everywhere that you don't, that,
Yeah.
no. We're keeping the focus on
Right.
the situation and yourself. Yeah.
This is how I feel about this particular
Thing
thing.
or situation
Not
or
about
experience.
you or the other
Yes,
person,
not about
yeah.
how you're a terrible human being.
Okay.
Right, and practicing that takes some time, and then you usually work in session, but it's something you can maybe work on with yourself, right, and by practicing this
Yeah.
as well.
Practice I statements is how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Another thing that you've mentioned is active listening.
Yes, and this is even harder
Okay,
for,
yeah.
for many people. Yeah.
Tell us what is active listening?
Yeah, so when people communicate with each other, a lot of the times when you're listening to someone, you're in your own head, thinking about what they're talking about, right? In terms of your beliefs and values about it, or how you would like to respond to it, or a situation but you're thinking about that thing, right, in relation to you. So active listening is trying to shut that off, and I'm going to listen to
As
understand
intently
you.
as I can, right?
Yes, I'm going to try to understand your perspective. I'm trying to get out of my brain and into your brain, right? Which is impossible. This is why this is so hard. But I'm going to try and shut all that stuff off and just really listen to what you're saying and really try to understand it from your perspective, right?
And you've
Not from my
emphasized that
perspective.
this is a very difficult skill.
Oh yeah.
People probably think that they're good at it, but
Yeah.
they're actually not.
Well, it's almost an impossible task, right?
Yeah.
I think you can get, you could start here and get really far though with this,
Yeah.
right? But I think practicing it is really a key component to having a healthy communication pattern in your relationships, and especially when it comes to conflict resolution. It's really trying to understand the other person. If you can understand the other person, now we can figure out what's going on here, right?
Right.
If I can't understand you, then right, how can I figure out what you're looking for here?
Yeah, and you also mentioned like a good way to possibly implement this is what you call reflective listening.
Yeah, so I have couples go home and practice that. The active listening is go home and one person's going to talk for X amount of time, and then you're just walking away. You're not saying anything about it at all,
Yep.
and you can't, nothing at all. You just not 24 hours later, not nothing. You're just going to be quiet, right?
Right.
So you're forced to sort of all the stuff you want to. You just got to swallow it, right? And that's good practice for that. And then once people get better at that, then we want to move toward reflective listening, which you just mentioned, right? Which is being able to demonstrate that I understand what you're saying,
Right.
By maybe summarizing what
So what I'm
you've
hearing you
talked about.
say,
Yeah, it's some of the things you say.
Yeah.
And then the other person can either correct that, right? Because we're trying to
Yes.
build like healthy communication. So no, actually, what I'm trying to say is this, right? Because there's a communication problem there. If you're not understanding each other, you can't resolve problems as well as if you did understand each other, right? So you listen. You're going to summarize the other person, and then clarify. Try to make sure that you really understand the other person as closely as you can, right? To how they see things, not how you see things or how you would like them to see things, right?
Yeah.
Which we do a lot of.
and just to reiterate, the key here is to externalize the problem.
And this part where it doesn't necessarily have to be talking about problems, right? This is just a way of communicating and trying to you know, but ultimately, yeah, this will lead to a place where if you are talking about problems, you can really get at what the problem is.
The
and
problem's
externalize
out
it.
here. It's in between us, not
Yes.
you. It's not
Yeah,
me.
it's in between how we interact. It's in between how we see things. It's in between the differences in our experiences in the world, right?
And by me
what's
making
going
the
on.
I statement, I've now said my piece on it.
Yeah.
I actively
Now I'm
listen
listening to your piece
to
on
your
it.
piece on
Yep,
it.
yep.
I might repeat back what you just said.
Make sure that you do understand each
Understand.
other by
Yes.
right noting it to each other, right?
Yeah.
Now we can see what that problem is, right? And the problem's not that Aaron's a slob and he doesn't
Right.
clean up after himself. The problem is, right, we have differences on how we perceive dishes being
Right.
managed in the home, right? If that was the case,
Yeah.
right? And that's where you find this. And you see this, you know, in kids cleaning rooms, right? And this is the teenager parent thing, fighting about cleaning the room, right? And it's really just a difference in perspective. Is the parents think room should be X amount of clean, whatever that looks like, and the kid disagrees with that,
Right.
right? And so where's the solutions there, right? And that's you know, and there's roles and different things, you know, that have to be taken into account. But there has to be some sort of right compromise solution in these things, or one of the parties or both of the parties, right, start to develop resentments around problems. And if you keep doing that, and you're 10 years, 20 years, by 30 years, you know, you get a big problem here.
Right.
Leads to divorce. I mean, divorce rates are very high. There's, you know, lots of anger between people around any number of topics. So, getting better at this would be good for you and good for society, probably.
Yeah,
as well.
no, I can see that. So, just to recap, what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is that conflicts are out there.
Inevitable.
They happen,
Yeah.
They happen.
Don't try to avoid
all
them.
The, all the
They're
time.
there. Yeah. Nothing you can do. They're going to occur because we're all individual beings, right, with differing perspectives, values, beliefs all the time. Yeah.
And there are healthy ways to resolve these, and
I
then
believe
there
so,
are
yes.
unhealthier ways to resolve them.
I do believe that
Some
as
of the
well.
unhealthy ways is by being an overly aggressive person,
Trying to be
trying to win.
dominance. Yeah. Like I win,
Or-
you lose.
A lot of times people fall into the other category.
Because
of
I
being-
always lose.
I always lose, and
Yeah.
I just suck it up all the time.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But they're both really bad.
Yeah.
and
I don't
can't
think
have a
it's
healthy
healthy. Yeah.
relationship. The root of the problem is different people have different values. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong. It's just the way you were raised and your dispositions and so on and so forth. Healthy communication begins by being assertive, and by being assertive, we mean that you're just speaking your piece openly and honestly about how you feel about the problem.
Yeah. And think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why maybe you do the things you do, or right? I mean, there's any
Right.
number of things, but you're talking about yourself.
Right.
You're not attacking the other person, and you are talking about yourself. You're not hiding it, right? In
Right.
order to appease the other person.
Right.
Yeah.
Active listening is going to be a key to trying to understand what the other person.
You have to understand what the person's saying,
Right.
and get out of your own head and how I'm going to respond, or how they're wrong, or how I think this about that, right? It's sort of, you have to get better, right, at understanding other people's perspectives if you're going to be a good problem solver.
Yes. And that might involve reflective listening, where you repeat back what they've said as you understand it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's incredibly powerful when you're in a conflict, right? Is you know, if you and I and Aaron, like I understand. This is what you mean, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, that is. You get it, right?
And it's probably
that's powerful.
it's probably like actually really powerful, like you said, because a lot of people don't do that, right? Nobody seeks to listen.
No, they
and
just
understand.
oh, by the way, this is actually what I wanted to talk about, or my
Yes.
yeah. And so like feeling understood is I mean, that's connectedness, right? Now, hey, yeah, I'm open to solving this problem with you, right?
And of course, the key to the whole thing is that the other person isn't the problem.
Yeah, the problem's the problem. That's what
The
I
problem's
say.
the problem. It's
Problem's
external.
literally in between you two. It's a thing external to you both, right? That you two can work together to solve. So you almost sort of, it's the dishes. It's not you're a slob. It's not OCD. It's the dishes are the problem. What are we going to do about this together, right? How are we going to resolve this? So
And so these are just great patterns to get into, good habits to
Yeah,
engage
yeah,
in.
may save someone's marriage. It may you save a friendship. It may make you happier.
Make you a more likable person.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, out in the world.
Yeah.
And may reduce a lot of the anger and divisiveness that seems to be growing in our society.
Be that
Unfortunately,
change you want to see in the world.
yeah, I think it's good.
All right.
It's a good thing for people. I've seen it help people, so it's nice.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that will wrap up today's episode.
Yeah.
We'll be back again soon for some more content.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about positive psychology, right? The path to happiness in life.
Wow,
So
all right.
that'll be a good one too.
Yeah, no, sure.
Alrighty.
We could all use a little more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.